At 6:47 a.m. on August 1, 1943, on a dusty airfield near Benghazi, Libya, Lieutenant Colonel Addison Baker climbed into the left seat of a B-24 Liberator named Hell's Wench. Beside him, in the co-pilot seat, sat Major John L. Jerstad. Baker was 36, commanding officer of the 93rd Bomb Group, a veteran with 11 months of hard combat behind him. Jerstad was just 25. He had already flown his required 25 missions. He could have gone home to Oregon 3 weeks earlier. Instead, he had volunteered for one more mission. This mission. Out on the tarmac, 178 B-24s were lining up for what would become the longest, lowest, and costliest bombing raid in American history, Operation Tidal Wave. The target? The oil refineries around Ploesti, Romania. Those facilities supplied roughly a third of Nazi Germany's fuel. Every gallon burned there powered panzers in Russia, U-boats in the Atlantic, and fighters over Europe. Intelligence officers had not sugarcoated the odds. They predicted that up to half the bombers might not return. Baker and Jerstad knew those numbers. They climbed aboard anyway. Operation Tidal Wave was simple to describe and almost impossible to execute. A 2,400-mile round trip, 5 bomb groups, altitudes between 50 and 500 feet, literally treetop level. Previous high-altitude raids on Ploesti had failed. The Germans and their Romanian allies had turned the city into a fortress. Heavy flak batteries, fighters, radar, machine guns on factory roofs. The only way to truly damage the refineries was to come in under the radar, at chimney height, drop delayed fuse bombs, and hope you were gone before your own explosives went off. The cost of just training for this mission was horrific. 47 B-24s had already been lost during low-level practice runs. Pilots misjudged height over water, plowed into hillsides, or collided while flying in tight formations only a few hundred feet off the deck. Headquarters estimated that 90 aircraft might be lost over the actual target, roughly 900 men. Hell's Wench would carry 10 of them that morning. Navigator Harold Sweetman, Bombardier John McCormack, Engineer James Merritt, Radio Operator Cecil Fife, 4 gunners. Every man knew the statistics. Every man strapped in anyway. Baker had briefed his group again and again. Timing was everything. All 5 bomb groups were supposed to reach their assigned refineries at exactly 9:30 a.m. Romanian time. Hit together, overwhelm the defenses, spread out the flak. Any delay, any navigational error meant the guns could concentrate and tear individual groups apart. The 93rd Bomb Group, Baker's group, would attack the Astra Romana and Unera refineries. Hell's Wench would lead the entire formation. Baker would fly in front, show his men the path through hell. At 7 a.m., engines thundered to life across Benghazi. One by one, 178 Liberators clawed into the morning sky, formed up over the Mediterranean at 19,000 feet, then turned north toward Europe. Soon they would drop to wave-top level over the Aegean, skim across Greece and Yugoslavia, then sneak under German radar toward Ploesti. 3 hours into the mission, over the Mediterranean, a B-24 in the lead navigation group lost power. The aircraft carrying the mission's primary navigator descended toward the water, tried to ditch, hit the waves at high speed, and disintegrated. There were no survivors. In an instant, Operation Tidal Wave had lost its pathfinder, the one man who knew the entire route better than anyone else. There was no true backup. The formation crossed the coast of Greece, descended to around 500 feet over Yugoslavia. B-24s flew so low that sheep scattered in the fields beneath them. Pilots could count individual trees. Flying that low kept them below most radar beams, but it also magnified every risk. A wrong valley, a misread ridgeline, At this altitude, one mistake did not cost one bomber, it could cost an entire group. Baker checked his instruments. Fuel burn looked normal. Engines were smooth. 17 B-24s of the 93rd Bomb Group held tight position behind Hell's Wench. To left and right, the other bomb groups spread across the landscape like a moving city of aluminum. 5 groups, 177 bombers now remaining. At 9:05 a.m. Romanian time, the combined force reached the initial point, the spot where all 5 groups were supposed to make their final turn toward Ploesti. This was the critical navigation moment. Miss the right valley here, and you did not just drift a mile off course. You headed for the wrong city. Without the lost Pathfinder, the mission commander's aircraft had taken over navigation. Baker watched the lead group begin its turn, and his stomach dropped. They were turning toward Bucharest, the wrong valley, the wrong city, 30 miles southeast of Ploesti. At 500 feet, there was no gentle correction. The lead group was dragging over 100 bombers away from the target and away from the carefully crafted plan. The simultaneous attack was unraveling in real time. Baker grabbed his radio. Radio discipline had been strict, but this was life or death for the mission. He called the lead over and over. Static. No answer. German jamming had begun as soon as they crossed into Romania. The airwaves were a wall of noise. Baker and Jerstad looked at each other. The choice was brutally simple. Follow the leaders to the wrong city and let the entire mission fail, or break away. Turn the 93rd Bomb Group alone toward the most heavily defended target in Europe, without the support of the other groups, without split defenses, without anyone to draw off the guns. Command had predicted 50% casualties with the full formation striking together. What would the losses be if only one group went in? Baker decided in seconds. He banked Hell's Wench hard left, away from the wandering lead, toward the smokestacks of Ploesti. Behind him, all 17 aircraft of the 93rd held tight position. 18 bombers broke from the mainstream and headed directly for the fortress city. German radar operators watched the formation split. Orders went out across the Ploesti defenses. Small American group approaching from the south. 18 aircraft, low altitude, all batteries, concentrate, fire. Every gun in Ploesti was now waiting for Baker's group. 10 minutes from the target, Baker could see the first smoke towers on the horizon, the Romania refinery, 11 miles ahead. Jerstad scanned the skyline. Thick black smoke already rose over the refineries from earlier attacks. Then they saw something else. Small dark shapes rising into the sky by the dozens, then by the hundreds. Barrage balloons. Each balloon hung from the ground by a near-invisible steel cable designed to slice through wings, tear open fuselages, and rip engines clean off their mounts. They were specifically intended to kill low-flying bombers. By the time Hell's Wench reached the outer edge of the Ploesti defenses, nearly 300 barrage balloons filled the air above the city. At 9:17 a.m., Hell's Wench crossed into the defense zone at around 470 feet. Ahead sprawled a nightmare: 7 major refineries, miles of pipelines, towering stacks, fields of storage tanks, and above and between them, a forest of steel cables. He couldn't climb. The mission demanded a low-level run. The delayed fuse bombs they carried needed time and distance to arm and burrow deep into the structures before exploding. Drop them from normal altitude and they would detonate in the air or on the surface, doing a lot less damage. So, the 93rd did the only thing they could. They flew straight into the forest. The first 88mm shell exploded 200 feet in front of Hell's Wench, just a black puff and an orange flash, followed by a blast that slammed into the bomber's nose, then another and another. Ploesti bristled with at least 230 heavy and light flak guns. The city erupted, the sky filled with black bursts and red tracers, so dense it looked like they were flying through a solid wall. A cable flashed out in front. Baker hauled the controls left. The wire whipped past the right wing by a few yards. Another cable appeared to the left. He rolled the aircraft back, weaving through gaps that opened with only seconds to spare. Jerstad called out constantly, "Cable high left, cable low right." 3 miles from the target, an 88 shell detonated under Hell's Wench, lifting the entire bomber. Shrapnel tore through the belly, punctured fuel tanks, shredded hydraulic lines. Warning lights blinked across the instrument panel. Fuel pressure dropped in one engine, oil temperature spiked in another. But the controls still responded. The engine still turned. Baker stayed on course. Then came the hit they didn't see. Lining up between 2 visible cables, Baker judged that he had maybe 40 feet of clearance on each side, and committed. The bomber jolted